Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Dangerously Short Roach Crossing weekly live stream, June 2nd, 2022. I think last week, after that really fun, really long live stream, kind of jinxed myself because a lot of things have happened in the last week, not necessarily good things. I guess I will start off with some good news. TJ's claimed the bounty on the captive bred Marulinella. The person he had put me in contact with maybe a month or more ago. We finally were able to work something out, and I was able to get 11 of them this week. And so, quite happy with that. I have been in contact with other people who are having very limited success with them. It seems you get a litter of 40 babies, and then you maybe get 1 to 3 to adulthood, which does not sound like success to me. So I finally feel confident giving them a go and have them set up, and hopefully my suspicions on some of their care needs and whatnot are correct. And maybe within 6 months I'll have a colony going. Who knows? So the bad news type stuff is I think on Thursday or Friday, my dad started having some allergy symptoms, and simultaneously while moving my mom, who has multiple sclerosis, so she's unable to walk and whatnot on her own. She injured her knee and it swelled up, and I think by Saturday found out that my dad's symptoms were getting more severe, and he ended up getting tested for COVID and tested positive. And then my mom also tested positive shortly thereafter. And so I've had to drive back and forth the last couple of days to their house to help take care of them, and then also drive back here to do all the things that I've needed to do around the house with all the animals out in the yard and bugs and whatnot. So I've been very busy and have gotten behind on quite a few things, unfortunately, at least. I guess not necessarily behind. I mean, I just wrapped up doing husbandry on a lot of stuff last week, which was very nice, but the gears must continue turning. And so when there's something that happens like this where I have to drop everything and sort of gunk up the schedule, it really sets me back a bit, especially also because Christian got COVID, which is actually unrelated to my parents getting it, because there's no point of contact between them and him. I think my dad got it at work, and I hadn't seen my parents in a while since my dad had contracted it. So that's what's been going on. So theoretically, I should be at risk for contracting it, although it's been well over 48 hours since any of my continued contact with them, and I'm not showing any symptoms, but I will still be quarantining from meeting up with anybody. In addition, in compounding with this, my car part still has not come in, and so my car will not be I'm not allowed to drive it over a certain amount of mileage or avoid the factory warranty stuff. So I will not be able to go on the Florida trip next week as I had been hoping for. Arizona trip in August is hopefully still on, but things are obviously pending what happens with the car situation. Hopefully by the end of June, but it just seems like there are just too many things that are preventing it from going very smoothly. Seems like a lot of people within my immediate circle of folks are having a bad time. Yes, it has been a rough week, but I think we're through the worst of it. I think the worst of it was actually, what day is today? It's Thursday. I want to say Monday or Tuesday. My mom didn't get respiratory COVID symptoms, but she was completely out of it. Like, she was barely able to form sentences and wasn't just all this deliriousness and whatnot. And I was like, my dad, who was starting to get better, we both like at some point looked at each other and were like, is she okay? So they're both currently on, I don't know how to say the Provaxin something. It's the antiviral something treatment. It seems to be helping both of them out, since they were already vaccinated and boosted. So now they're on this additional treatment, which seems to be working. So it has been a very rough week. And also, in addition to all the other things going on, and it was actually, I think yesterday was maybe when things seemed like they were getting better. When I went to go check on them yesterday, I took Victor, and my dad was taking out the garbage cans, and Victor saw my dad leave the the gate wide open, and he just took off. And my parents live on near a very busy intersection, and so he's just like panicking. And he ended up running around the block. We ended up being able to catch him before anything bad happened. But oh boy, it has definitely been a week. So I haven't been able to do emails. I've been running back and forth and doing husbandry here. Traffic's been awful. Gas is expensive. Everything's just been really awful all around. I was able to slip some order. Had already filled up for orders this week, anyways. I'm just pushing stuff to next week. Hello, Subbags. You're catching just the tail end of me bemoaning the last week. I was able to get some orders out yesterday. I think there's one person I still need to contact. Yes, one person I still need to contact who had suggested that I should ship next week anyways. So timetable for anybody who's checking in here for to see what's been going on, since I also updated the homepage as soon as things I updated it yesterday, just to give people an idea of what's been going on. Timetable for things is likely cleared inboxes tomorrow night, likely tomorrow morning, and I would love to just jump right into emails and bug stuff and whatnot again, but I have to very carefully budget my time to get through everything that I need to do. And tomorrow morning, my neighbor Karen is going to Mexico for a couple of weeks, and she has 2 small dogs. And fencing company came and put in a fence because the fence that she used to have was very decrepit, and the dogs were digging under it and getting out. And they assured her that, oh, that's annoying. And they had assured her that the fencing that they were putting in would have some sort of tension wire, and the dogs would be able to get through. And they put it in, and because of the uneven terrain and all this other stuff, and probably because of roots, the fence is all very the fence itself is very nice, but it's not effective at keeping the dogs in. The one dog could just dig with 5 minutes of effort and just go right under it, and so she's very nervous about that before she goes to Mexico. So tomorrow to go over, and she's currently fighting with the fence company, but there's a couple of really bad spots. I got to go over and bury some fencing for her tomorrow morning, and then scurry back on over here and do some stuff for the rest of the day. So yeah, that's basically how things have been. The last week, it's just been a lot, especially, again, everybody seems to be getting COVID around me, with my parents, and then Christian. Also Christian and I were supposed to work 3 days the end of this week. Didn't happen because he's obviously out with COVID. So yeah, that's been the week. It's been a lot of downs, unfortunately. Another up, I guess, is I found a source for some blue death feigning beetles, and so I'm debating whether or not I want to make them available on the site or make them a in-person at expos exclusive type thing, because I prefer not to sell things that are wild collected, at least with the Phidippus regius situation. I know that's being done relatively sustainably, which is also why it's sort of stopped for a bit or slowed. And but with the blue death feigning beetles, with everybody having very limited results, or not efficient results in captivity to sort of produce them to meet the demands. I don't necessarily feel comfortable selling them by the hundreds on my website, since I don't I don't think we know enough about their ecology to say if harvesting them in the numbers we do is long term sustainable. Um, so, or maybe even just make a temporary page. I know it'll get some more site traffic, but I mean, quite frankly, I'm up to my neck in a lot of things to do as it is right now. Um, so yeah, that's just sort of where things are. Again, I would like this to be a shorter live stream so that I can go off and get started on the things that I need to continue doing. But I thought that a lot of people would appreciate a more detailed update of what's sort of going on right now, and things will get better. Again, my parents have been improving since they've been put on that uh, medication, and they've been monitoring their blood oxygen saturation, some other things, and they seem to be in good shape otherwise now. But it was, pretty rough having to go back and forth, and um, the emotional aspect of it as well too. So, but let's see, positive thoughts, happy thoughts. Other than all the not positive thoughts. This has led me to decide that I um, could really use a more formal vacation, and not necessarily a bug collecting trip, as much as that is very relaxing in some ways to me. When I'm on trips, I also feel the immense urge to optimize and maximize the trip, so that I don't feel as if the funds and time have been wasted. So it's a lot of trips are usually very um, can be quite stressful for me. Let's see what's going on, chat. Did you decide on a name for your gold dubias? Some eggs. I like cornflakes still, and I haven't had a chance to get a bowl of them and put a spoon in it to sort of actively visualize to see if that's a really good name. Actually, on the whole gold dubia thing, that John Frost fellow, I'm actually going to log into Roach Forum really quick. He apparently forgot his login on the Roach Forum, and ended up creating another account to update everyone and say that basically his strain's ready to go. And so I'm not sure what he's gonna um, um, oh boy, I need to reply to him. Let me do that really quick. All right, I sent him a message. I should really wish I'd been keeping in touch or keeping track of that, but it seems that I didn't get an email notification that I had been contacted on Roach Forum. So, anyways, he's oh man, I mean, maybe Mr. Frost would name his line "Golden Shower," although he also agrees that there has been quite a lot of uh, pushback on the gold dubious strain, and again, that's a main reason why I would like to avoid using the word gold in any capacity. in addition to the golden shower being gross. um, Alan, I don't know of anybody offering Porcello succinctus. I think that they have probably gone extinct in U.S. culture, perhaps abroad as well. I don't think they have a very large range in the wild either, so I hope somebody didn't grab the last of the wild population and everybody killed them in captivity. I mean, it happens, I suppose. So anyways, well, we're getting some strangely good FPS right now on the stream, unless something else is involved here. That's very interesting. Um, anyways, Alex says, and we have a pink flowered Salix Canada, but I'm trying to think of a non-vulgar name. Oh, pink flowered. That's an interesting. That's very interesting. I mean, Pink Panther. Oh, that's beautiful. I see that there's some pictures of some other wild specimens that have pink flowers. So, botched abortion or tampon? Yeah, that'll definitely sell at the horticulture and garden stores. I have wondered about this. Maybe somebody who's more versed in patent or copyright law type stuff, but I've noticed that with named lines of plants or named, I guess, propagated from tissue or other asexual reproduction stock, they will often have a name registered to a copyright, and then they'll have the actual name for the strain in the store. So you might see like a Rudbeckia fulgida, like in the store it'll be like Tinkle Winkle, and then if you look up like the additional information for it, I don't know if it's a pen information or something like that, but they'll also say like Pixie Blush or something like that for the same strain. It's actually quite confusing when they do that. I'm wondering if that's because the propagator picks a name and then the people who are in charge of marketing or whatever are like, no, we're not going to do it that way. We're going to pick some stupid name that's going to make it sell better. And then they use the other name for sales, but then they keep the other one for all the legal documents and stuff. So I'm trying to think of another situation. I know back when one of the Star Wars movies came out a couple of years ago, stop saying strain for plant cultivars. Well, I mean, there's seed strains of stuff too. You still have the genetic diversity in there for things that actually come true to seed. But what was I going to say? They had those what were they? Speedwells. They had a whole bunch of Speedwells that they named after Star Wars stuff. I'm going to see if I can find the name for them. I think I'm going to go another 12 minutes on the live stream as well, too. For anybody who's just now tuning in, it's been a very difficult week, and I have quite a few things to do to sort of play catch up and maintain. If you'd like to hear more of the specifics on the trials and tribulations, you'll need to watch the playback of the live stream. But anyways, let me see if I can find out what this is. Veron, the Speedwell lightsaber. And this is very annoying. Let's see. Yeah, so they had the series of Speedwells. There's like Lavender Lightsaber, Blue Skywalker, Blue Lightsaber, and all this stuff. And I, preferring to go with native things wherever I can, even if they're native cultivars of stuff. I thought, oh, hey, I do like Speedwells. They have a pretty long bloom time, and they do attract some bumblebees and stuff like that. Not to have a whole bunch of them, but just a couple as like little sort of plants of interest. Um, so, anyways, I bought these two thinking that, oh, I got blue lightsaber and lavender lightsaber. Surely they will have, they're being marketed as sort of a pair. Surely they'll have the same habit. They'll just have different colors, the same bloom time, etc. And no, they didn't. They bloomed at completely different times, and like one of them was like this lanky, pink flowered, monstrous upright thing, and the other thing was this little crappy, squat, longer blooming blue flower thing. It's just like deceptive marketing at its best. I know there was no guarantee or promise that these two things that had the same name except for different colors would be identical, but still, I expected more out of big horticulture, and they, as usual, consistently let me down. So after that, I really started carefully considering any cultivars of things that I bought if I was going to try and do matching things. Right now, the thing that I'm giving this a try with and hoping, actually, with the spot I'm putting it, it doesn't really matter if they're going to be matching or perfect because I alternated the two different ones that I have. It's the Annabelle or Invincible smooth hydrangeas. There's two of them. There's one that has white and one that has ruby flowers. And so I just sort of figured for the spot I was going to put these hydrangeas that I would just alternate them, and they seem to have very similar habits, but we'll see what happens. I may not even be in the house by this time that they come into their own, but still, somebody else will see what happens, I guess. So yeah, that's some hort gripes for now. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Well, I expected more out of the horticulture. First mistake. You know what? I guess while I'm on this mindset on this sort of mini rant as the clock ticks, I have noticed this has been a very awful year for horticulture stuff. I'm not sure if it's supply chain or if there was a period of time of a couple of years where they were kind of trying some new things at a larger scale. Because I feel like the last 2 or 3 years there were quite a few interesting plants for sale at garden centers and horticultural providers in terms of like annuals and hardy perennials. And now this year it just seems like it's absolute like garbage. It's very heavy on petunias, and well, it's always been heavy on petunias, but I feel like there's less diversity of petunias, and I also feel that there's more foliage plants, and that is kind of okay. I feel like if you have coleus and stuff like that for pretty foliage type stuff, but now there's just a lot of like grassy looking things and weird just like ground cover type things in the annual sections. It was difficult for me to even find. There's a couple places on the way back from when I dropped boxes at the post office that have hort distribution centers, garden centers, and they're more mom and poppy, but usually they have a good variety of a bunch of stuff. And I could barely even find my Salvia farinacea, the bedding sage or mealy cup sage. I could barely even find it this year. And it's a very popular plant. And what else has they really cut back on? There's a really good place near me for native perennials, Barson's Greenhouse, and they have a butterfly greenhouse and have been very focused on butterfly host plants and stuff like that. But I feel that they have started getting decreasing returns from some of the stuff, and they seem to have found it less. They probably had, after a couple of years of trying new things, they've sort of narrowed it down to some stuff that is a more genuine appeal. I think, and so basically the variety of stuff they have has sort of dropped, and it's a bit disappointing, but I can see why. From a business perspective, you don't want to stock plants that nobody's going to buy, but at the same time, I feel like they also don't have the means to sell things like that, because I remember walking down the aisles last year and thinking to myself like, oh look, they've got showy goldenrod. Oh look, they've got native Jacob's ladder. Oh look, they've got, all these really cool, very useful garden, really beautiful garden plants that you could put in. And I remember seeing these two ladies, and like one of them picked up the pot of showy goldenrod and like said, the other one's like, so it doesn't have a flower? And it was just like, oh my lord, because they don't always put a little tag in with everything to show, the final plant. But it really does go to show, people will go there and they want to buy something that has flowers on it. You could have the most beautiful plant on earth that flowers for 8 months out of the year, once it's a year old or something like that. But boy, if you have a little, not even a little, but a small starter plant that doesn't have any flowers on it, and you don't have someone to pitch that, people will just walk right by it and go buy the freaking dianthus or something like that instead. Actually, last year they had the Passiflora incarnata, the cold hardy passion flower. They had seedlings available, and or not seedlings. They were well started plants from seed, and they were $2.99 each. It's a steal for like a foot tall native passion flower. $2.99 is just crazy. And I remember going back over the course of every couple weeks, and it just didn't sell. People just don't know what they are. They want to buy crappy dianthus and, God forbid, mums and stuff like that. But anyways, what even got me started on? I was just doing a rant on garden centers and stuff like that. But yeah, even Walmart usually has some vegetables and stuff available, and some various annuals, and they didn't have anything this year. You'd be very hard pressed to cobble together a garden with stuff from stores. And the one place down the road from me I don't even think they've gotten their vegetables in yet. So, due to my ignorance, what's bad about mums? Mums are, in Michigan at least, I don't know how it is in milder climates, people buy mums and they neglect them because it's like a September, October yard decor vibe. And then they go to plant them once they've sort of finished taking up the Halloween decor space on the porch. And they get frustrated because the plant just dies over the winter because it doesn't have any sort of established root system or anything in the ground, because you literally threw it in the ground right before the worst time of year for most plants. And then some of them bloom so late and need to be sort of pruned and guided and structured to get good consistent shape that isn't floppy or inconsistent flowering. And they fertilize the daylights out of those plants also in the greenhouses to get them to have the sort of flower display that they do. They just bombard them. So then, assuming your porch decoration survives being thrown into the freezing ground with only the previous year's over fertilized and not hardy root structure, assuming it survives all of that, then it has to go through another growing season, and it may end up having half the plant with blooms on it, the other half of it dies, and it's just is ridiculous. The other thing that really killed any of the appeal about mums to me is the fact that we have so many wonderful native asters, chrysanthemums, and Symphyotrichum are both asteraceous plants that bloom in the fall. They might be in the same like clade of Asteraceae. I'd have to look up on that. But basically, our native asters are just far better all around. There's an aster for every soil, for every light condition, for everything, and most of them bloom in the fall. Some of them uh, even bloom even into winter. Get things like blue wood aster, Symphyotrichum. What is that one? I'm embarrassed. I'm rusty on this. Symphyotrichum cortifolium. Uh, just there's just they're just a wonderful plant, and some of the botanical hybrids and some of just the straight species have flowers that are just as good as, if not better than, a lot of mums. And of course, they're excellent for late season pollinators, and the plants themselves are host to all kinds of. This is just a no work native chrysanthemum basically, and so it kind of ruined any of the magic that the crazy the few crazy and really appealing chrysanthemum varieties had for me, because the asters just kick their ass all around. Um, and as for other folks in the chat, yes, echinaceas are great. I have some purpurea in the front yard. The only thing about echinaceas here is that they get even though they're supposed to be deer resistant, they get hit by the bunnies, and the deer decide to give them a chomping here occasionally too. So I do love purpurea, and I should probably find somewhere in the backyard to grow a little bit more of it. It is a very excellent plant, just the straight species is. Goldenrods are wonderful too. I think I have somewhere between 10 and 15 species of goldenrod scattered around the yard. Maybe 2 or 3 of those were here when I moved in, and the rest of them are ones that I added. Wingstem is also another really good plant. I am actually putting in a row of that in the backyard along the fence line. I just have to talk to the neighbor and see if he approves of my the 6-foot Victor containment fencing I put in. Should be just to my side of the property line. And yes, Helianthus are another one. I have Strumosus, Divaricatus, and several cultivars of tuberosus. I think I have Helianthus occidentalis down by the street, and there's one very feeble plant of Helianthus salicifolius in the backyard. I kind of prefer silphiums a bit more, and although the everything here seems to eat all the silphiums, unfortunately, I don't think I can get a good population of prairie dock going because of the grazing. But the silphium integrifolium, is it integrifolium? Perfoliatum cup plant. I have a big wild meadow that has a bunch of that at the back, and then another large bed that has that towards the back too. It's a plant that's very dear to me. And actually, I'm going on a little mini rant before I wrap things up after touching on some of the comments. I was given some of this cup plant, Silphium perfoliatum, when I worked at U of M at the Interpretive Center. They had some patches of it in the children's garden, and they needed to sort of was creeping out of the bed, so they needed to get rid of some of it. And in Michigan, it's actually a species of special concern. Let me double check that. Oh, it's a threatened species in Michigan. So yeah, it's a threatened species in Michigan. So I was like, yeah, give me that. So I put it towards the back of one of my parents' garden beds, and over the years, it's grown this beautiful, big, lively clump of plants. And there are some seedlings that come up in sort of the half-vacant alley through my parents' neighborhood, and I watch as they sort of grow up, and then sometimes they get cut down, or the houses that are back there. I say semi-vacant alley because they're part of fenced-in lots, but they're actually an easement But the people who live in those houses, kind of manage those areas or garden in them. And so I watch as different people move in and out of those houses. Some of them cut them down, some of them let them grow, and I just sort of watch that. So, but the neighbor to my parents' house, who um uh she's more of a formal gardener. I'm sure if I talked to her, she could be swayed on a couple of things, but she started to get annoyed by the seed heads of the cup plant that would dip into her yard, and even not even just the seed heads, but just the flowers. It's a big 8 foot plus tall plant, and sometimes some of the stems will flop over, into her more prim and proper yard, and she seems to have reached some sort of boiling point. She came over the fence and seems to have sprayed the big patch of the original cup plant that I put there. And so I am not an angry person, but I have when people do things to plants that I put in, it causes some very insane rage within me. It's one of the very few things that I get enraged, like just seething mad about. But I quickly calmed myself, having seen that this year, knowing that, well, they'll probably seed back in, and they will rise up from something will rise up from the ashes because they're part of a larger bed of other things there. But it was just very, very tragic to see that 10-ish-year-old patch of cup plant get sprayed because somebody didn't like a couple of flowers. And it's not like it's an ugly flower either. It's covered in 3 to 4 inch diameter long blooming flowers, and there's always bees and butterflies and goldfinches and stuff like that all over it. So, but also the fact that the plants have been reproducing, and there are plenty of seedlings that I can always dig up or move around and stuff like that. So anyway, so that's that. Let me go through the chat, read a couple things, and wrap things up. Um, Pollinators associated with the end of the year. Usually bumblebees are still out, and this is in September and early October. There's so much stuff. There's all kinds of longhorn beetles, there's flies, there's bumblebees, there's all kinds of solitary bees. There's all of the you'll get oil beetles. Get a lot of monarchs will use stuff as they're migrating through. You'll get late flying butterflies, like red admirals will go to stuff. I'm trying to think of some other late flying mourning cloaks. Very rarely you'll see them. Usually there's some late black swallowtails too, because of the abundance of their host plants, because there's so much wild carrot and garden carrot family things around. They'll have quite extended seasons sometimes. So and some wasps, although in the fall, especially late September and October, after the new queens for next year have left the nests, a lot of wasps, like yellow jackets, they just don't have anything to do really. There's an abundance of food. There's no cohesion from rearing larvae and whatnot in the colony. And so a lot of those will just, they fly around getting drunk and being a general menace with occasional scattered aggression. So in the fall, I'm not too appreciative of things like yellow jackets, but all the bumblebees are still feeding brood and whatnot, and future queens and whatnot. So yeah, there's moths. Another big thing, and I have come to realize this over the years. There are a lot of late flying moths too, and so I think it was last year I went out in late October. We had a nice warm evening, and I was looking around the front yard, and there were just moths all over all the asters that were blooming. I was like, wow, like I would never have thought that there was so much activity at night. There's more activity at night on the flowers in my front yard in the fall than there is on in that space during the summertime at night on those flowers. There's just so many late flying moths because there are quite a few moths that overwinter as adults. Mosquitoes probably also stay toward the end of the year. Yeah, there's plenty of mosquitoes that overwinter as adults too, although I don't usually see them on the flowers. Very rarely I'll see males feeding on the flowers in the spring and early summer. Um, I wouldn't quite call mosquitoes important pollinators. um, they probably do. I would honestly, at this point, having seen so many Ectobius pallidus roaches on flowers, I would say that roaches are a more important pollinator, at least here, than mosquitoes are. Um, I will answer the last couple of things here, and then I will dip out. Difference between Nocticola species Malaysia and species Florida. Species Malaysia came from Malaysia, and species Florida, or I think Miami, was recently collected in Florida. Alan and Kai, I think, both said they look very morphologically similar. I would disagree. I think that the Florida ones are differently colored and are either I can't remember which. I think that they're more slender than the Malaysian ones, but I think one of them or both of them are going to do some genetic work on them to see if they are closely related or not. Elephant mosquitoes. Oh boy. Um, I don't know, Alan. I think that they could have came in on any sort of plant material that was brought in, like a lot of other Florida stuff has, especially if they may have came from Hawaii or something like that, like the weird papaya picnoscellus. I think that the genetic evidence is going to be the nail in the coffin if that ever gets done. So, because the species Malaysia were found in a tree trunk or something in the wild or tree cavity, and the habitat for the Florida ones is just so drastically different. I think that the association they have is a strong indication that there might be some differences genetically that could indicate that they're different species of different origins. On elephant mosquitoes, this will be my last thing before I take off. Last year, in the summer, I was on a walk with some friends, and we went through we walked all the way to the park that's near here. It's near a floodplain, so it has some good intact or very disturbed but relatively intact floodplain habitat there, and somebody was mowing the big soccer field that was there, and so I didn't realize how much of an effect that could have on mosquitoes because the wet weather coupled with the lawnmower going through and probably kicking out all the carbon dioxide exhausts and other exhausts was whipping the mosquitoes up into like this nightmarish frenzy, like walking through the field and there's clouds of mosquitoes. And in Michigan it can get pretty bad during the summertime, but never like a cloud of angry mosquitoes like it was that day. And so we hurried through the big field and got to the other side where we were sort of out of the range for the chaos that was going on. And I think both of my friends got bit once or twice or something like that, enough for us to sort of talk about that. And I was like, huh, like I haven't gotten bitten yet or whatever. And I can't remember exactly how the exchange went down, but my friend Joe like looked at me and was like, "Oh, Kyle, you got like a big bug on your shoulder, but it's not a mosquito." And I turn and look at my shoulder, and it's huge galley nippers. Only the second one I've ever seen in my entire life, just perched right here. You know what? It may have been even funnier because I think I may have said, "Oh, there's so many mosquitoes. It's such a big mosquito year. Maybe we'll have gallon nippers out." And I think that was when he like looked and said, "Oh, you got you got a big bug on your shoulder, but it's not a mosquito." And then I looked and I was just like, scream because it was about to bite me, and he smacked it. um, elephant mosquitoes. Oh, that's I forgot that that's a common name that some people use for crane flies or like daddy longlegs, but not the arachnid. I thought that by elephant mosquito you meant the gallonipper, Saurophora ciliata. I'll put the Wikipedia. Put a link to the Wikipedia here. But yeah, you toxorhynchitis. Oh, interesting. Oh, those are the ones that interesting. Now that you mention that, I think I have seen some of those in my yard from that genus. Interesting. Very interesting. So I knew that male mosquitoes are nectivores, but I didn't know that there was an entire genus of mosquitoes in the US that is completely herbivorous. That's very interesting. So yeah, anyways, the Gallinipper experience was something. Uh, I will not forget that thing perching on me menacingly. And the only other time that I've experienced Gallinipper was when I was in junior year of high school, and I was I think it was May or June, and I was at a friend's house nearby, and I sort of went to go look for garter snakes near a bridge, and I see this big mosquito-esque thing sort of flying at me, and I'm just sort of like, huh. And then it gets closer and closer, and I realized that it was a Gallinipper, and I just ran, and this thing was following me as I was running. Eventually, I did. I picked up speed, and I got out of its detection range. But yeah, those things are out for blood, literally. So, with that being said, Gallinipper, yeah, the genus Saurophora, species ciliata, I guess, it would be in Michigan. So, okay, so I'm going to head off to get back on track with a lot of things. I appreciate everybody tuning in. I think it's interesting we had last week's very long live stream to balance out this week's very short one. So anybody who's listened to this through, again, I will be updating the Roach Crossing homepage with anything about delays and whatnot to orders and such. And hopefully by the end of tomorrow or late tomorrow night, I will be all caught up in emails. So thanks again, everyone, for the well wishes and for the nice abbreviated live stream. Have a good evening, and may your cultures ever be bountiful and not COVID infected.